Nobody tells you this, but the calmest people in any room, they're not calm because life is easy. They're calm because they've built something inside themselves that most people spend their entire lives outsourcing to circumstances. Their nervous system isn't reacting, it's governing. And the crazy part, the wealthiest, most grounded individuals you'll ever meet, the ones who lost everything and rebuilt, who sit in boardrooms and don't flinch, who handle chaos like it's a slight inconvenience, most of them aren't reading the same self-help books you are. They've internalized a philosophy so old it predates every productivity app, every morning routine YouTube video, every hustle culture manifesto, Stoicism. But not the Instagram quote version, the real version, the uncomfortable version, the version that asks more of you than you think you're ready to give. This video is about the 9 pieces of that philosophy that nobody is talking about. Not because they're secret, they've been sitting in dusty texts for 2,000 years, but because they're inconvenient. They don't sell supplements, they don't have a course attached, and they require you to sit with some hard truths about why your life looks the way it does. If you want to stay comfortable, click off now. If you want to understand why certain people move through this world differently, keep watching, because by point 5, something is going to crack open for you. I guarantee it. Point 1. The discipline of indifference. Why they stop caring about the wrong things first. There's a Stoic concept called adiaphora, indifferent things, and the Stoics were ruthless about categorizing almost everything as indifferent. Your reputation? Indifferent. Other people's opinions? Indifferent. Whether the deal closes today or next Thursday? Indifferent. Now, before you think this sounds like quitting, understand what they actually meant. Indifferent doesn't mean unimportant, it means uncontrollable. And once you stop bleeding mental energy into things you can't steer, you have an almost unfair amount of focus left for the things you can. Think of your daily attention like a water tank. Most people have 100 tiny holes punched in the bottom. Social media comparison, replaying old arguments, worrying about what the economy's going to do. By noon, the tank is empty. Wealthy, calm people, same tank. They've sealed almost every leak by refusing to emotionally engage with what they cannot move. This isn't detachment, it's precision. They care deeply just about far fewer things than you do. And that selectivity is a superpower hiding as a personality trait. The second you stop treating everything as equally urgent, your decision-making gets sharper. And sharper decisions? That's where real wealth starts. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, because what you're about to hear next might explain exactly why you've been working hard and still feeling stuck. Point 2. The anti-trophy mindset. They don't celebrate the win, they study the process. Seneca wrote something that most people skip right past. Omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est. Everything is foreign to us, only time is truly ours. Read that again. Not money, not trophies, not your follower count, only time. The wealthiest Stoic practitioners in history, Marcus Aurelius running an empire, Cato refusing to bow to Caesar, weren't obsessed with outcomes. They were obsessed with the quality of their actions in the moment of doing them. Modern success culture is addicted to the scoreboard. Celebrate the close, post the win, announce the milestone. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledgement, but wealthy, calm people do something different after the win. They get quiet, they go back and study what actually worked, what nearly didn't, and what was luck dressed up as skill. Because if you can't separate your process from your outcome, you'll accidentally repeat the wrong behaviors and credit the right results. That's how people have one great year and then wonder why the next 5 feel like running through wet cement. The trophy is a period at the end of a sentence. These people are interested in the grammar of the whole paragraph. And speaking of grammar, the next secret is about the language you're using inside your own skull and why it might be the most expensive bill you're paying right now. Point 3. Inner monologue taxation. The cost of catastrophic self-talk. Epictetus, who started life as an actual slave and ended it as one of antiquity's most respected philosophers, had a line that should be tattooed somewhere visible. Men are disturbed not by things but by their opinions about things. That's not motivational poster material, that's a clinical diagnosis of why you suffer. Your inner monologue is either an asset or a liability, and most people have never audited it. Cognitive science has a term for it: catastrophizing. Your brain takes a setback and, in roughly 0.3 seconds, constructs an entire funeral for your future. You lost one client, your business is over. One argument with your partner, the relationship is doomed. Wealthy, calm people interrupt that story mid-sentence. Not with toxic positivity, not with everything happens for a reason, bumper sticker nonsense, but with a ruthlessly honest question: is what I'm telling myself actually true, or is it just the loudest option? Stoics practice this as prosophic radical self-observation, watching your thoughts the way a security camera watches a hallway, not reacting, just recording, then deciding. Every time you tax yourself with a catastrophic story, you're paying rent on a house you built from fiction. And rent on fictional property? That's the most expensive thing in your life right now. Now, what if I told you the next secret is about doing less, and that it's completely counterintuitive to everything you've been told about success? Point 4. Strategic subtraction. They remove before they add. Here's something Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that his PR team, if emperors had PR teams, would have buried. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's not a philosophical musing, that's an operating system. The Stoics were obsessed with subtraction as a precursor to excellence. Before you add a habit, eliminate a distraction. Before you take on a new goal, audit which current goals are phantom commitments, things you said yes to, that your best self would have declined. The wealthiest, most peaceful people I've ever studied, from Warren Buffett's famous Hell No calendar philosophy to Marcus Aurelius governing an empire while journaling nightly, all practice aggressive, unapologetic elimination. Not because they don't care, because they care so much about what matters that they'll sacrifice what's merely interesting. Your schedule is a self-portrait. If it's cluttered, chaotic, and reactive, that's the painting hanging in the gallery of your life right now. These people repaint constantly, not by adding more color, by scraping off everything that wasn't supposed to be there. And what you're about to hear next is the one secret that explains why some people fail up while others succeed sideways. Point 5. Voluntary discomfort as currency. They spend it deliberately. The Stoics had a practice called Melated and Tout meditation on hardship, not in a morbid way, practically. They would deliberately expose themselves to cold, hunger, poverty, and discomfort, not because they were masochists, but because they were training their nervous system to recognize that the thing they feared losing could be survived without. Seneca would sleep on a hard floor periodically, not as punishment, as calibration. Wealthy, calm people do a version of this constantly. They take the hard conversation before they need to have it. They sit with uncertainty instead of immediately flooding it with noise. They say no to comfort when comfort is making them soft. Here's the analogy that I think nails this perfectly. The Stoic relationship to discomfort is like a blacksmith and fire. The blacksmith doesn't hate the fire. The blacksmith uses it because without heat, the metal doesn't move. Without voluntary exposure to what's hard, your character doesn't move either. And a character that doesn't move, that's not stability, that's stagnation wearing stability's clothes. What comes next is the one that the wealthy almost never say out loud because it exposes how they actually think about other people. Point 6. The utility of humans cold? No. Clear. This one's going to sting a little. Stoics believed in oikeiosis, a Greek term meaning something like appropriation or affiliation. The idea, there's a rational, ethical way to relate to every human in your life based on their actual role, not their perceived role. Marcus Aurelius, who dealt with backstabbing senators, incompetent generals, and people literally trying to poison him, wrote about viewing every difficult person as a teacher, not because they deserved a teaching award, but because the friction they created was sharpening something in him. Wealthy, calm people are not cold. But they are extraordinarily clear about what each relationship is for, what it demands, and what it produces. They don't confuse proximity with loyalty or volume with value. They have a small table, and everyone at it has earned their chair. This isn't cynicism, it's discernment. And discernment historically has been one of the primary traits separating people who accumulate real peace and prosperity from those who keep being drained by the wrong room. Up next, the Stoic secret about failure that runs completely opposite to everything the motivational industry has built its entire business model on. Point 7. Failure as data, not identity. The ruthless reframe. Here's what the motivational industry doesn't want you to know. Celebrating failure as a badge of honor is just as dysfunctional as being destroyed by it. The Stoics didn't celebrate failure. They didn't throw fail-forward conferences. They analyzed failure with the same emotional neutrality a mechanic uses on a broken engine. No drama, no eulogy, just what broke, why, and what's the fix. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, reportedly said that he made his greatest progress the day he was shipwrecked and lost everything. Not because the shipwreck was good, but because it stripped away every illusion about what he actually needed versus what he'd been chasing. Wealthy, calm people have reframed failure at a cellular level. It's not a story about them, it's a report about an event. The moment you make failure about your identity, you've turned a data point into a life sentence. These people rent the data and move, and what they do immediately after moving is the next secret, and it's one of the most underrated tools in this entire list. Point 8. The power of purposeful silence. They are not performing their piece. You will almost never hear a truly wealthy, truly calm person announce their piece. They don't post about their morning meditation. They don't caption their sunrise. They don't perform equanimity for an audience. The Stoics had a word for this, hesychia, a deep, non-performative stillness that is the byproduct of inner discipline, not the cause of it. Real peace doesn't need a ring light. There is an enormous industry built around performing wellness while deeply struggling, and the algorithm rewards it because performed peace is content. Actual peace is quiet. It's the person who doesn't react when someone insults them in a meeting. It's the investor who doesn't panic sell when the market sneezes. It's the entrepreneur who sleeps fine the night before a high-stakes pitch, not because they're not nervous, but because they've done the internal work to know that regardless of outcome, they'll respond to whatever happens with intention. Stillness is not a brand. For the Stoics, it was a weapon. And the final secret, the one that ties all 8 of these together, is the hardest one to hear, and the one most people will nod at without actually doing. Point 9. The daily audit. They end every day in the witness chair. Pythagoras had a practice. The Stoics refined it. Every night, before sleep, you sit as both the judge and the defendant of your own day. 3 questions. What did I do well? What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? No mercy, no spin, no rationalizing, just the truth of how you actually showed up. Seneca called this practice recogitatio, a nightly reckoning. He wrote that no one should end a day without first examining it. Here's why this is the capstone of all 9 secrets. Every single thing we've talked about, indifference, subtraction, silence, discomfort, discernment, none of it compounds without feedback. You cannot improve a system you refuse to honestly evaluate. Wealthy, calm people don't become that way by accident or by genetics. They become that way through iteration. And iteration requires honesty about the current version. The nightly audit is the mechanism by which every other Stoic practice gets refined, tested, and strengthened. Skip it, and you're flying a plane with no instruments impressive until it isn't. Here's what I want you to sit with. Every person you've ever admired for their calm, their clarity, their seemingly unshakable sense of direction, they didn't get there because circumstances were kind to them. They got there because they made an internal decision, probably more than once, to govern themselves before trying to govern anything else. That's the whole game. Ancient, unglamorous, and more effective than anything being sold to you right now. Pick one of these 9, just one, not all 9, one, and run it like an experiment for 30 days. Don't announce it, don't post about it, just do it. Then come back and tell me in the comments which one you chose and what shifted. I read every comment, not because the algorithm likes engagement, though it does, but because this channel exists for people who are actually trying to change something real. If this hit differently than what you've been watching, subscribe. There's more where this came from, and none of it is soft.